help me
March
say?
29th, donation is welcome.
And they can start bringing them in anytime?
Yeah, anytime church is open. And we'll put it in the office at Will.
Next?
I'll just come up after.
Okay.
Debbie, did you buy chili?
I did not.
You want one? We bought ours.
Oh, okay, okay.
Because he's got to still come and Shereen. Either here or Alex. Okay. Somebody's going to. Are they selling it next week?
I'm assuming they're selling them at the door.
Oh, okay. So I'll put so that and Japanese treasure and salad credit. Charlie has to add, right? I'll text you. You need to bring it. It's not bad. It gets caught in the mask. And all you smell is cat.
Namandavats, 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 namandavats. Welcome, everyone. Shall we start our morning service with a meditation followed by Nembutsu? Namu Amida Butsu.
Namo Amidabutsu.
Namu Amida Butsu.
Namo Amidabutsu.
Namu Amida Butsu.
Namo Amidabutsu.
Namandavats, 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 namandavats. Good morning, everyone. And for those that I haven't seen in a while, Happy New Year. Today we are observing one of the most important services for Jodo Shinshu Buddhists, Goshoki Hoonko, our annual memorial service for the founder of our sect, Shinran Shoni, who passed away on January 16th, 1262. I'd like to welcome our guest speaker, Reverend Ken Fujimoto, who is a BCA Minister Emeritus, and we know him from his time when he was in Lodi. So welcome, Sensei. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to everybody who showed up yesterday and helped with omigaki cleaning up. They cleaned the hondo, the onaijin, and both kitchens in the gym and the mini chapel, and so everything looks great. But I want to give a special shout out to 4 of our Dartmouth School students who actually came and helped out yesterday. I shouldn't say actually, but who came and helped out yesterday, Jules and Rainer Belts, and they did a really good job helping in the kitchen. And to Alex and Andrew Kawaguchi, who, along with Dr. Allen, pulled out the stoves in the mini chapel and cleaned the walls and the floor behind it and the stoves itself, and it was not pretty. but they were back there and dug in and really did a good job cleaning. So thank you, and thank you to everybody else who showed up for Omigaki. It's much appreciated. So let's start our service with Sambujo, which can be found on the inside cover of our service book, and it will immediately be followed by Aspiration de Hyeobyakumon by Reverend Candace.
With a profound sense of gratitude, the members of the Buddhist Church of Stockton have gathered here this morning for this whole May we begin to hear the timeless call of reassurance that continues to come from the world of immeasurable and inconceivable life and light, in the form of the name that calls. Namu Amida Butsu.
Namu Amida Butsu.
Namu 阿弥陀
南無阿弥陀仏。
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 ナマンダ仏、ナマンダ仏、ナマンダ仏、ナマンダ仏。
Our sutra today is Shoshinge in the service book, pages 39 to 54. It will be followed by Nembutsu and the echo.
主公明南天竺優柔大自主と戦質の財派有無権節大召喚議事昭安楽賢治南行六六新行異行指導楽億年弥陀仏本願次年即時有筆上唯の上昇如来言法大偶然音天神菩薩道論説奇妙無下根如来永衆たら献身実後世の法四願力栄光移動群上昇維新義入功徳大崩壊筆弱如来永衆衆特使蓮華造世界即昇信用法精進有本の臨賢人図入所自用自用言本心論羅両天使上皇乱消防殺来三蔵律師十条教本上宣教気楽法天神菩薩論中言報道意が見世願方言猫ゆたり少女心唯心人惑前論部新人ポツ承知承知即涅槃一心無量光明道小無修上回復権道釈継承道南朝唯明道初入万全自力変言宗円満徳感染症三不三神経音言総末法滅道因異生増悪地偶然死安如害称名感全道徳妙武勝因法愛上三よ逆悪光明明語見二年開入本願第一回行者小中今後心教期一年総合陽愛と逆三人北小小市上楽原神公開一大教変気女化二三天道終始反省法家二度弁流極流悪人唯小仏愛 諸願本心元空明仏教霊民全幕本無人新宗教諸公演習戦弱本願愚悪性現代生自輪蓮華ケチ義上位昇進即入弱上無為楽一心人二の入仏教大自主死と上際無変国辱悪同族自主不動心唯一心心放送説ナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダがんにちぐく平等聖祭どんの大心おじょあだこナマンダブツナマンダブツナマンダブツナマンダブツナマンダブツナマンダブツナマンダブツナマンダブツナマンダブツ
Next, we'll have Oshoko, which is our incense burning by the following representatives. Dharma School student James Naishi. Dharma School teacher Mike Shibata. Sangha Club Rainier Belts. Buddhist Association, Andrew Kawaguchi. Young Adult Buddhist Association, Meme Pablo. Adult Buddhist Association, Dolores Matsumura. Tomonokai Motoe Takahashi. Stockton Bukkyo Taiko, Chris Kupo. Cortez Hoakai, Dambo. Stockton Buddhist Women's Association, Ruby Kato. And Buddhist Church of Stockton, Debbie Nakade.
Tag me. Our first Gatha will be Saint Shinran verses 1 and 2 in the service book, page 205, followed by Three Treasures, which is also included in this program.
Three treasures. Hard is it to be born into human life, now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the teachings of the Blessed One, now we hear it. If we do not deliver ourselves in the present life, no hope is there that we shall be freed from suffering and sorrow in the ocean of birth and death. Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of truth. I take refuge in Buddha. May we all together absorb into ourselves the principle of your way to enlightenment and awaken in ourselves your supreme will. I take refuge in Dharma. May we all together be submerged in the depth of the doctrine and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in Sangha. May we all together become units in true accord in your life of harmony in a spirit of universal oneness, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through ages of myriads of kalpas, hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Tathagata's teaching. Namu Amida Butsu.
Namo Amida Butsu.
Namu Amida Butsu.
Namo Amida Butsu.
Namu Amida Butsu.
Namo Amida Butsu.
Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu.
I'd like to ask Reverend Candace to please come up and introduce our guest speaker today.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming and attending this very important service in memory of our founder, Shinran Shonin, who, if you may not know, Shinran's portrait is here on the right-hand side. And so today, again, in honor and observance of his memorial service, we're so fortunate to be able to come together as a Sangha and chant Shoshinge, which is Shinran, or at least a portion of Shoshinge, which is Shinran Shonin's major work. And when I was at the Institute of Buddhist Studies, it was a beautiful way in which I learned that this was kind of like a thank you letter from Shinran Shonin to Shakyamuni Buddha, Amida Buddha, and his teachers for really showing him the path of Nembutsu. And so how many of you write thank you letters as well? Whether it's write them or send them through the internet. Okay, some of you. But thank you for joining us today. And I was happy that Reverend Ken was able to join in the chanting as well, to be able to chant with somebody else up here. But I've known Reverend Ken for a long time, and Reverend Fujimoto, he had different assignments within the Buddhist Churches of America, which included Fresno and Sacramento and Lodi. And so Reverend Ken was one of the ministers who I remember from my childhood from our Northern California district. And so in addition to Reverend Fujimoto, but other ministers like, of course, Reverend Ohata, Reverend Matsumoto from our temples, from our temple, and of course, Reverend Bob Oshita from Sacramento, they were all very instrumental in providing a good foundation of the Buddha Dharma while I grew up here in Spain. And so now Reverend Ken and Mrs. Fujimoto, they're neighbors. They live in Manteca. And so on occasion, which it seems to be quite often, I ask him to come out of retirement to guest speak for me, whether it's here or in Walnut Grove. And so I'm just so excited that Sensei, in addition to Reverend Motoyoshi, they're here within our area so that we can still hear the Buddha Dharma from them. So Sensei is here to give first the Dharma message for the children, and then Sensei will also be giving a Dharma message for the adults. So without further ado, Sensei, yoroshiku onegai shimasu.
Namandap, namandap, namandap. Namandap, namandap, namandap. Good morning, everyone. After that nice introduction, I really feel old. Also, I see a lot of old faces out there, and I really mean old. I know, and then I think about when I look in the mirror, I must look just as old or older. So, I was going to start off by asking, why are we gathered here today? And after the chairman and Reverend Candace's introduction, you know why you're gathered here today. It's Shinran Shonin's memorial. But then, there are other things that are happening tomorrow as well. Like, tomorrow is probably a holiday for some of you. The fires are going on down in Southern California. Something we could have a service for as well. People have lost family members. And then, there's an inauguration going on too tomorrow. And then there's a college football championship game going on tomorrow. There's a lot happening. And all of those things are happening in our lives, right? And we need to come back to some of these events and a little bit later in my talk. But the reason for this service is that we're observing the memorial for Shinran Shonin, the day he's supposed to have passed away. And I say supposed to have passed away because it's so long ago, and depending on the traditions, they have different dates. And it's not that he was so important that he died on different days, right? But, when you think back over 800 years ago, it's hard to pinpoint things, right? In Kyoto, he's buried in about 3 different places that I know of, depending on whether you're Nishi Honganji or Higashi Honganji. So it's not that, they don't know for sure. Well, they don't know for sure, so they come up with their own things. So when you get older and die, I don't think you have to worry about that too much, right? If you become really important, then maybe, But one of the things that happens a lot is because we have memorial services so frequently. We start off the new year with this service. Next month you have Nirvana Day and all of these, Obon, then the Higan services. These are all memorial services. Plus, families have memorial services and funerals. And people think Buddhists are really kind of depressing people because all they do is have memorial services and talk about death. And, it's true, but the memorial services are important. One time when I was setting up for a service in San Jose, one kid, he was in elementary school, but he had come through the nursery school program, the preschool program there. So he comes up to me during, because it was I was setting up for the 49th day service for his great-grandfather, right? Because of schedules, family schedules and stuff like that, the funeral and seventh-day services and stuff were just a couple of weeks before that. So he comes up to me while we're setting up and he says, "Didn't we just do this?" And I think most of you who've been to service like that know what he means, right? You have the funeral, the seventh-day service, then you come back for the 49th day service, then then you have the first year service and the third annual service, And one thing I'll explain, and I hope the kids remember, is that first year service is 1 year after the person passes away, right? Then you have the following year, you have the third annual service, right? It's not that we count differently or anything like that, but the funeral is number 1. The first year service is 1 year after, right? And the third annual service is the third year, right? You count the first funeral is number 1, the first year is actually number 2, and then you have the third. Then you go on and have the 7th annual and 13th and stuff like that. And there are all reasons for these services. Like until the third annual service, it helps you. Because when you lose somebody close, you're sad. You need to adjust. And this is why that service is held. And by the 49th day service, this is 7 weeks. You should be pretty much adjusted to that new reality, right? And it's a new reality. It's not something you ever get over, but it's something new that happens. Anyway, all these services have their separate meanings, and then, if you ask Reverend Shibata later, she'll explain all these things to you. So, the fact that we have these memorial services is because they serve a purpose, right? They serve a purpose. And the fact that Shinran Shonin is supposed to have died, on January 15th, and such, that really isn't that important. When he died isn't that important. Tomorrow we also observe Martin Luther King's birthday. Is that important? When he was born, that important. How many of you here were born? Anybody here not born? No, right? And then birth in itself is no big thing, Well, they say birth is suffering. There's reasons for that. But yeah, everybody's born. The other side of this is that everybody's going to die, right? But the part that's important is the time between the birth and the death. What do you do in there, in between? So every person is born, so Buddhism and Eastern thought really doesn't make a big deal out of birth, right? Really don't make a big deal out of birth. And then what is important, again, is that time between birth and death. What do we do? How many of you are going to do something so great that you're going to be remembered 800 years from now? Right? How many of you are going to be remembered 100 years from now? Right? Most of us aren't. The old Japanese saying is that 3 generations is about what you're going to be, remembered. So that's right around 100 years and such. So to be remembered 800 years from when he passed away is important because of what Shinran did, right? And Dr. King dedicated his life for the racial and social equality of all people, right? All people. Shinran dedicated his life to spread the teachings of Amida's compassion, constantly reaching out to all people, wherever they may be, and to lead them to a world of enlightenment. And because of this, we remember him. We remember his efforts. And we don't, this is another Buddhist, we don't take time off for important events, right? We don't take time off from work. We don't take time off from school, it really doesn't seem to be that big a deal for us. You don't get discounts at stores or restaurants, but we get together and do what he left us. He tells us to listen to those teachings. Listen for the call of Amida. Listen to the Namo Amida Butsu. And we remind ourselves that every single day is something important and precious. Things are changing around us all the time. You have the fires, you have the social situation going on. Everything is changing. There were upsets in the football games yesterday that were pretty surprising. But all these changes are there. All those events are happening. And we need to remind ourselves that each day is something that's important. Each day is something that we really need to live. We have to learn how lucky we are and see that, even if we have things that we complain about, this is only possible because you are. It's really a luxury to be able to complain. Some of you that are my age or older know that it's a lot better having those aches and pains that you with in the morning than not waking up in the morning, right? This is one of those things that happens. So for our teachings, we're told that we need to appreciate every day, no matter what, and that every day is special. Every day is special. When I was a student in Japan studying, it was a cold morning like today, well, except it's not as sunny as it is right now. And I decided I didn't want to get up to go, get out of my phone and go to school that morning. So I stayed in bed, and by the time I finally got up, it was about almost noon. So at the end of the year, so I decided to go out there and buy some gifts to send home for the end of the year. And I took the bus and went down to the department stores, the top place where the department stores are. And as I got off the bus, there was this Caucasian man standing in front of the department store. And he looked awfully familiar. Then I thought about it, but all these Caucasian people look the same in Japan. So, but he looked familiar, and he looked like one of my rugby teammates from college. So I thought, what am I going to do? If I call out his name and it's not him, it's embarrassing. And I thought, hey, wait a second. I look like everybody else around me here in Japan, so he won't be able to tell the difference. If it isn't him, I just ignore it. So I did call out his name, and it was him. It was Rosen, a friend of mine from rugby. And we talked, and it was he and his fiance were touring Japan with his fiance's sister, and the women were inside shopping at the department store, but it was too warm for him inside the department store, so he was waiting outside. Now you think about it, and it was miraculous that happened. It's miraculous that it happened. Number one, I had to cut class that morning, which I never did, right? I had to take that bus to go to that department store, that area, and he had to be standing there. He had to be touring Japan with his fiance and sister. They had to be, he had to be standing right there at that time. It is miraculous. But when you really think about it, every time we meet somebody, every time, whether it's, your spouse, your significant other, roommate, schoolmate, somebody at work, each time is miraculous. All those things have to be just right for you to be able to get together. The only difference is, if I had taken a different bus, if I didn't, if I went to class that morning, it wouldn't have happened for that situation. But every time we see somebody, every time we meet, everything has to be just right. And we need to come to understand that. And we need to put our hands together and say, Namo Amida Butsu, or thank you, just to be glad that you're able to meet. Just be glad that you can complain. Just be glad you can be happy. And this is what Shinran Shonin is basically telling us. Be glad that you are and make the most of it. This is to live the life of the Nembutsu. And this is the reason that we're gathered here today. And then we try to think about how can we share our appreciation for being able to be by sharing our lives with those around us and around them, so that our gratitude reaches out to all people all over the place. So I'd like to end my Dharma School talk here, but I would like to share with you one quote that, well, you're all familiar with this, but I don't know if you've ever heard the free translation. And this kind of expresses what Shinran Shonin is trying to teach us. The compassion of the Tathagatas, Amida and Shakyamuni, and his benevolence of those, and the benevolence of those who let us receive it, particularly the seven masters, is incomparably great. We should repay them, no matter how difficult it may be to do so. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. I thank you.
If you're able, please rise for our next gatha, Ondok-san 2, in the service book, page 197, that's also included in this program, and it will be followed by our pledge on back cover of the service book.
Our pledge. Breaking out of my shell, I will share a warm smile and speak gentle words, just like the kind Buddha, not becoming lost in greed, anger, and ignorance. I shall think and act with an open mind, just like the calm and peaceful Buddha. Not putting myself first, I will share in the joy and sadness of others, just like the compassionate Buddha. Realizing the gift of life I have received, I shall strive to live each day to its fullest, like the Buddha who tirelessly works to liberate all. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu.
Before I begin the announcements, I neglected to acknowledge a group that helped yesterday with Omigaki. We had a group of 7 young adults who were representing a nonprofit here in Stockton, and they know Reverend Candace, and they came out to help with the Omigaki, and they helped here clean here in the Hondo, and they helped in the mini chapel or the gym kitchen, and they even helped serve lunch. And so this nonprofit promotes peace and understanding through interreligion dialogue. So we'll make sure that we get a thank you out to them for their hard work. Announcements. Reverend Shibata's book club will meet on January 22nd at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom. So if anybody is interested in joining our book club, please contact Reverend Shibata or the office. Cans and plastic bottles are now being collected by the YBA. Please leave your recyclables, white barrels by the mini chapel. I also want to remind people that we're having another beginners pickleball class on January 26th, and then we're going to repeat again on February the 23rd. Those are both Sundays. It'll be after service from 11 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. There will be instruction and kind of open play for any of the beginners who attended the first 2 classes. So if you could, I have a flyer, and there's one hanging in the mini chapel, but if you can contact Ann Fukumoto if you're interested, so that we know approximately how many people to plan for. But all you have to do is show up, wear tennis shoes, but paddles, balls, all of that, we have donations for that, so you don't need to bring any equipment. So if you're interested, come on out, it's a lot of fun. Japanese treasures, the sale will be on March the 29th. All donations are welcome. Actually, we need donations, so whenever the church office is open or on Sundays, you can bring in your donations, and you can leave them in the mini chapel over by the piano. And then a reminder, Yaba is sponsoring a chili over rice lunch on February the 2nd. And they are also sponsoring a Super Bowl pool, so if you want to get in on that, see one of the Yaba members. And I think, oh, and Darlene's going to update us on the wildfires down in Southern California.
So good morning, everyone. So of course, we're bombarded on the news, the internet with what's going down in Southern California with the wildfires. And last week I gave you kind of a little bit, and there's been a lot of development since in this last week, actually yesterday, all day yesterday. So the Pasadena Buddhist Temple did sustain damage because of the smoke that infiltrated all the buildings. And of course, we don't know in the neighborhood if there's lead or asbestos in that ash, so they will have to sustain a deep cleaning, a professional cleaning, before they can resume normal activities. However, the temple is now out of the operation zone, and so they are actually a hub for the community, not just their own members, but the community. And Orange County Buddhist Temple has been sending truckloads of water. As Reverend Gibbs put it yesterday on a light note, we have enough water to last all year. So they have, the generosity of the Orange County folks have been giving them, I saw the picture, there's like laundry detergent and diapers and water and everyday needs that are no longer in the possession of many families. The San Diego Buddhist Church put together a drive and has sent gifts, and Reverend Gibbs, who is the resident minister of Pasadena Buddhist Temple, said that has been probably the best thing that's happened to them, because he has been able to visit people and bring them gift cards, and they can go to the local stores and purchase whatever it is that they immediately need right now. Neighborhood's still not open, and at this point we do know of 15 families associated with the Pasadena Buddhist Temple who have completely lost their homes. And yesterday afternoon we heard that communication is very difficult when you can't drive to their house and make sure they're okay, right? So we have heard that there are 2 West LA members who have also lost their homes. So there is still much to come. Many members, they may not, as Pasadena put it, we have a member that we've been trying to recruit, but she just won't leave Senshin, but they do know she lives in the evacuation area, and they fear she's lost her house. So right now there's a lot of communication, and the reverends and the temple leaders down there are trying to reach out and find everybody who needs help. Because even if you did not lose your home and you're in an evacuation area, you cannot go back. There's too much hazardous waste, and they're still looking for their search and recovery efforts. So, but if you feel, because we've been filtering all kinds of emails from people about wanting to do immediate assistance. So we ask you not to send stuff to Pasadena, because they're overloaded with items. They could use, and this is a long-term effort, is funding, is money, because they do not know exactly it's a very unknown thing. It's like Lahaina, everything disappeared, what do you do? So we have been in touch with a gentleman, his name is Michael Munikio, who spearheaded the Maui fire wildfire relief, and he's also a member of Lahaina and is working on the rebuilding of Lahaina, and he's been very helpful. So it is really funding that they need. So there's things, if you really feel compelled, you have to do it today. Pasadena Buddhist Temple has a GoFundMe page. Their goal was $20,000, and as of yesterday, they had surpassed that. They were at $27,000. Then the other thing is they would greatly appreciate gift cards. And we got an inside peek in talking to them yesterday that the Targets in the immediate area are open, fully open and functioning. They've lost places like Kohl's and such. So they suggest if you want to donate gift cards and send it to the Palo Alto Bill, and they will distribute it to their family members. And Peggy, do we have any Target gift cards on hand? Do you know? Okay, all right. But yeah, Charlie and I are going to stop at Target on the way home and pick up and send it down there, because that seems to be a very easy way right now to get people funding so that they can purchase what they need. On the BCA level, we had been fundraising for the Noto Peninsula in Japan, who sustained a devastating earthquake last year, January. So we will be sending $35,000 to the Honganji to help with their recovery and rebuilding efforts. And we will be opening a Southern California wildlife donation collection point. So if you go to bca.kindful.com, don't go today, it's not there. Maybe like Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll be opening that up, and you can directly donate through the BCA to this effort. Those funds will be collected and accumulated, actually, until we figure out the best way to serve not only our members, but the local communities as well. So those are two things. And right now, we're looking at assisting also. You have American Red Cross and Direct Relief on the ground in the area. And I've seen on the news there's a big push. So there's a lot of money influxing right now. But the problem is it comes in now, it gets spent, and there's nothing later. So we're hoping that enough funds will be collected through the bca.kindful.com website to be able to sustain their efforts in the area. It's been 18 months since Lahaina, and they're just beginning to rebuild. They have no idea yet when the temple will be rebuilt, but the Yagura did survive. And then the Nokotsudo building survived damage. It sustained a little bit damage on the outside, but everything on the inside was pristine. So there were no losses to anything inside the Nokotsudo. So again, just what's going on down there, because the news doesn't tell you how our Buddhist temples are affected, and that's what's going on. And Bishop Harada will be down there visiting all the affected families as soon as we can get that list put together. So Target gift cards to Pasadena Buddhist Temple, their GoFundMe page, or please wait a few days and we will be doing a BCA effort on bc.kindful.com, pull down to the Southern California wildfires. Thank you.
Thank you, Arlene. Are there any other announcements? If not, Dharma School students are dismissed to their classes. Is it through sixth grade? Or up to sixth grade. Are dismissed to your classes. If you have not yet offered incense, please come forward and do so before leaving the Hondo. And everyone else, we invite you to stay and listen to Reverend Fujimoto and his second service. Oh, and don't forget, after service today, at the completion of service, we are having our annual New Year's luncheon over in the mini chapel, and that's lunch and door prizes, so make sure you stop and have some lunch with us, okay? Thank you.
So hello again, everybody. Thank you for staying. When I get to come down to see the children, I get to say hello to them, and so it's always nice for me to I greet them when they do Oshoko. So we'll get to see our kids again when they come back for the luncheon. But we welcome you to stay for Reverend Fujimoto's adult Dharma message. And then hopefully Sensei will be able to join us too for the luncheon. So without further ado, again, Reverend Fujimoto. Thank you, Sensei.
Thank you again. I'd like to begin by first sharing with you a quote from the Tanisho from Shinran Shonin. I have never said the name even once for the repose of my departed father and mother, for all living beings have been my parents and brothers and sisters in the course of countless lives in many states of existence. Upon attaining Buddhahood in the next life, I must save every one of them. Were saying the name indeed a good act in which a person strove through his own powers, then he might direct the merits thus gained towards saving his father and mother. But this is not the case. If, however, he simply abandons such self-power and quickly attains enlightenment in the Pure Land, he will be able to save all beings with transcendent powers and compassionate means, whatever karmic suffering they may be sinking into in the 6 realms and the 4 modes of birth, beginning with those with whom his life is deeply bound. Thus were his words. Namandap, 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 namandap. Thank you very much, and I appreciate being invited to come share my thoughts with people here today in Stockton. I quoted this from the Tanisho, Shinran Shonin's quote, because it makes you wonder, if he's felt that way, why do we have, start the year off with the memorial service for Shinran Shonin? He didn't want to do that other. Why do we do it today? And, being retired now, I've had time to reflect more deeply about some of the things that I didn't really think about too much when I was active. Those times when I was active, I was so busy doing things, writing articles for a newsletter and, taking care of services, getting ready for services, contact people and stuff like that, that I really didn't think too much, have sufficient time to think about the services that we do and why we do them. I understand now why many retired ministers used to speak for so long when you ask them to speak. They've had time to think about things so that they got, build up all of these thoughts. And I hope I don't end up like that way, But another thing too, though, about that, the other side of this, is that when you're asked to come out to speak, people expect a certain amount of, time. I used to be known as, Reverend Yamaoka and I used to have, not really a contest, but people used to think, wonder which one of us was shorter in our talks. But now, when you're asked to come out to speak as a guest speaker, people gauge by how long you speak, because if you don't speak long enough, they don't think they're getting their money's worth, right? So it's really weird and it's hard. So hopefully I can find a good balance because, some people are good speakers. Some people are terrible public speakers. But a lot of times those people that are not very good public speakers really leave you with something, and that's what is important. Others, they're very entertaining, but then afterwards you said, what did he say? What did he talk about? And hopefully there too I can find a balance. I remember one speaker who was so bad that, most people really had a hard time listening to him. But you listen, the little bits that I do remember hearing, they were really deep, very deep. He had a son that also spoke, and he was a good speaker, but he didn't have anything. But anyway, as a minister, I always had questions about memorial services, including this Ho'onko service, the memorial for Shinran Shonin. And when you think about this quote in the Tanisho that he made, and then the fact that he made a request apparently to his disciples that when he passes away, throw his body into the Kamogawa River so that he can provide nourishment for the fish that that are there. And this was his expression of trying to pay back, the benefits of the nourishment of the fish that he had been able to eat throughout his life. And, this really makes you wonder why we have so many memorial services. And then I came to realize that we really don't have memorial services in Jodo Shinshu. We have services on the memorial dates, and they're not for the deceased, but it's for those that have been left behind. When you think of all the services that we do, I mentioned it for the Dharma school part, but traditionally, after the person passes away, you have makara gyo, right away, to provide comfort to the family, actually. Doesn't do it much for anybody else. Then after the funeral, you have services every 7 days until the 49th day. The reason that they did this is when people lived in the village community, it provided therapy, actually. By getting people together who are close to somebody, they can see how each other is coping with that loss. And then by the 49th day, 7 sevens, you're supposed to, you pretty much have found a new balance in your life. Like I mentioned earlier, you never get over the loss of somebody close. But you do find a new balance in that life. And if you haven't found a new balance and, started adjusting, you need more help. You need more help. So when people lived in the village community, they could do that. They can get every 7 days pretty easy. But today, we skip after the first 7 day, pretty much skip until the 49th day because the distances, and that's fine. Then you have the first year, 1 year after. Again, this is still therapeutic because, your life has changed, but you still need to go on and you see how each other is going beyond this time. The third annual is, again, this is a transition one. It's where you stop the therapy part and go into the reflection part of what a person meant to your life. Then you go back, and then you have the 7th year. This is 6 years after, right? The 7th annual, 6 years after. It's halfway around the Asian calendar. And when you try to look forward 6 years, it doesn't see, it seems hard to figure out what's going to happen 6 years from now. Looking back at 6 years, it just happened the other day, right? And all the events that happened in between that loss and today, they've been a part of it. And you come to realize that a lot of things have happened. But they're still part of that, even though they're gone. And then like the 13th annual is like, one full time around the Asian calendar of the Asian zodiac. And even more has happened. But you come to realize that all those events there, those people have been a part of it as well. So the services are for us, more than they are for the deceased. You know, it's pretentious of us to think that we can do anything for a person after they've gone. You know, most people I've talked to anyway, and I've met, when they lose somebody close, rather than talking about what they did do for them, they'll talk about what they wish they could have done for them, right? This is the way we are. In reflection, we see that we could have done a lot more, but we didn't do it. So these services are for us so that we can reconnect with the lives of those who make us who we are. And for Shinran's situation, to see that religious aspect of teachings that we've received, how they affect us as well. My cousin Sue passed away this past summer, and we were never that close as kids. We lived in LA and we moved around in Central and Northern Cal all our lives. But in the past 15 years or so, we got closer until she did pass away. And we started getting closer because of deaths in our family, and then we get together and we try to understand who we are and the various people in our lives that we really didn't think about when we had that chance. Being the two oldest of the cousins, we remembered and knew more about people and events. I knew more than my younger brother. She knew more than her younger sisters. So, we take those opportunities to talk and try to piece together more of our lives and and we grew closer in that process. We got to thinking about things, and we both remembered weird events, like our grandmother used to have a Japanese candy store in East LA. And we remembered, the area, because there used to be a triangular building across the street and stuff like that. We remembered things like that, but they used to remember what the address was, what the name of the store was, or anything like that. All of this we missed because we didn't think about it then. Well, we were young kids then, too. But over the years, we were able to piece things together and come to understand more of our lives. We were able to gradually identify people that would come and visit Grandma and Grandpa and stuff like that, and realize that certain people were a lot closer, than we realized. Like, it's really a weird situation because my grandfather, younger brother, and younger sister, they all came over from Japan together. And then because of his younger, and he died relatively young, because of his having one daughter, and that daughter, after the father died and the father died, the mother got remarried, but then she grew up remembering how lonely it was being an only child. So she had 9 kids. So I'm related to half of Oxnard area, because of those kids. They're getting married and all that. Then there was this man that used to come over all the time, and only, in the last few years when we were able to get together, did we come to understand that was our grandmother's younger brother, and he had gone, Yoshio was adopted by another family, so therefore he had a different last name. We always wondered who he was, and we were all able to put these things together. And then another thing that we remembered, I knew, and we were able to put together too, was that my grandfather's younger sister snuck into Mexico from the United States to get married. You hear people sneaking into the United States from Mexico, but she did the opposite. She was legal here, and then they have family over there, and I guess in the Guadalajara area and stuff. And then at one time, relatively recently, one of the second cousins from there came over, and we got together at one of their other relatives in the Mission District in San Francisco, and we had to have those cousins translate for us because they spoke Spanish, we spoke English, and the Japanese was bad for both sides, so it was translated to us in Spanish. But all that happened, and we remember those episodes and stuff like that, and we finally, we learned more about who we are, who we are. And we grow closer because of that. So the observance that we call memorial services really connect us with the past. And in the process of thinking about the past, we're able to learn more about ourselves and the people around us, the closest to us. So we learn more about the people and events that make our lives possible. And that's why the memorial services are important. We're not just morbid and want to focus just on death. But we have to remember that life and death are two parts of the same thing. In Buddhism, you can't have life and death. It's really life-death. They're two parts of the same thing. And because of that, we need to truly realize our lives and to appreciate the lives of those that have gone before through these memorial services, through that reality of that we're going to die too. I don't think I'm going to die, but that's the way most people are. You don't think about your own death. But I would bet that most of us are going to die at some point. And, it's not something you want, but it's something that is. So, to use the Buddhist terminology, in that process of the memorial services and getting together and reflecting on the past and reflecting on who we are, it's that great compassion that's been at work on us and in our lives as karma and interdependence. All of that has been taking place. And most of the time we go through life and we don't think about it. But at the times of those memorial services, like this one too, we have time to think about it. Or hopefully we have time to think about it. So it's not just to remember those who've gone past, our relatives, our ancestors, Shinran Shonin, Shakyamuni Buddha, but to help us connect with the reality that makes our lives possible. So this Hoon service is not simply to remember Shinran Shonin, but it gives us an opportunity to revisit that which he dedicated his life to share with us and to learn to live that life that we have. So it's a fully and with meaning, and a chance to express our gratitude for having the great compassion working on our lives by learning to live that teaching and sharing that teaching with others. And we don't say, you should do this. You have to find your own way of how to do that. One way is, like Darlene mentioned, all the support that needs to be extended to the people in Southern California. And even more, there are other situations right around us now that we can think about. we shouldn't have to wait for great tragedies to happen to extend our help. We need to learn how to extend our kindness, express our appreciation for what we have by reaching out to those around us now. You know. So all the memorial services show us who and what have been important in our lives and making that life possible. They show us the great compassion working our lives. And all this is the call of the Namu Amida Butsu, to hurry up and awaken to that compassion and to start living a life that expresses our appreciation for that call for our lives. So it's been long and I'm getting tired too. So I'd like to once again close with the 5th chapter of the Tanisho that I began with. I have never said the name even once for the repose of my departed father and mother. For all living beings have been my parents and brothers and sisters in the course of countless lives in many states of existence. Upon attaining Buddhahood in the next life, I must save every one of them. Were saying the name indeed a good act in which a person strove through his own powers, then he might direct the merits thus gained towards saving his father and mother. But this is not the case. If, however, he simply abandons such self-power and quickly attains enlightenment in the Pure Land, he will be able to save all beings with transcendent powers and compassionate means. Whatever karmic suffering they may be sinking into in the 6 realms and the 4 modes of birth, beginning with those with whom his life is deeply bound. Thus were his words. Namandab, 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 namandab. Thank you all for giving me this opportunity to share some thoughts with you. And thank you to Reverend Shibata for thinking of inviting me and giving me this opportunity. Also, thank you to all of you for being here and allowing me to speak to you this morning. You know, I recognize some faces out there, and looking at the program earlier, the thing I was amazed at is that, well, Ruby was representing the Fujinkai, the BWA. Before, she, you know, when I remember, she was like representing the Dharma School or the YBA or something like that, as advisor. So it shows that life changes around us, even here. Thank you.
Thank you, Sensei, for sharing not only your own personal history with us, but also reflecting upon all of the karmic conditions of all of our lives that allow us to be here, and how the Nembutsu really encourages us to live a life of gratitude. So thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join us. And thank you, everybody, for joining us for this service. And of course, we welcome all of you to join us in the mini chapel this year for the luncheon and raffle. And you have to be present to win for a door prize? Oh, you have to be present to win, so make sure you stay so you can get your raffle or your door prize. Okay, so thank you, everybody. Shall we put our palms together one last time to conclude today's service? Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda. And of course, if you didn't have an opportunity to come forward to offer incense, please come forward and to, say hello to Reverend Fujima, and then we'll meet you on the other side at the mini chapel. Thank you. It's really slippery, so. Oh, do you want me to get your shoes? You want me to get your shoes? That's okay.
Ready?